guys, what are we gonna do today? This is what we're gonna do today. Look at that, isn't that cute? And it was so simple, easy, inexpensive. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna need is a template. So if you go to the description of the video, there's going to be a link there that you can click on and it'll give you this template of this light bulb. So you're cutting these out to actually make a stencil. I took it and I cut it out of plastic. So you can either cut it out of heavy cardstock, cut out these areas, or you cut it out of plastic. So I am actually making these out of cardstock. 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, and I can get 2 on this sheet. I'm pushing it down closer to the end. You want to use a light colored paint on this. This is tarnished pearl. You know, and I found with my paints, they get stuck and I can't open them. I found if I just put a piece of plastic over the top, when I close them, they're much easier to open later. And if they start getting really yucky, then I just get a new piece of plastic. And that seems to help me a lot on keeping these areas clean to opening it. That's just a little tip I finally figured out. So when I am painting this, I'm doing a dry brush technique for a stencil. So I put paint onto my brush, I tap it off, so it's almost a dry brush. This is kind of a large area. If you start in the center, you're probably not gonna have any bleed through on the edges. And then I can do another one right next to it. So I get 2 out of every piece of cardstock. Now I'm going to be cutting these out, so even if I do go over a little, it's not going to really matter. Let's do the top part. So you're going to want to let this dry before you start stenciling your next piece. Okay, so when this is dry, I'm going to use skeleton key. This is just a darker gray, and here's the one I cut out for the top, and I'm just going to line it of the tarnished pearl right here, because then I know it's overlapped really nicely. My stencil brush and paint, tap off. And then I'm going to do it on this side. So if you're doing lots of these, it'd probably be just easier to line up all your pieces of cardstock and do the one color all at once, and then do the next one and do as many as you're planning to do. There we go. Now we're going to let this dry. Now for this itty bitty little spot here, I'm going to use Little Black Dress. I'm using a block. And these are just the lines in the top, but we're also going to be scoring this. So this is a part you could omit. I just think it definitely adds a little character. And I'm going to be cutting this out, so around the outside edge doesn't really matter. We're going to let this dry, and then we're going to cut these out. So now this is dry, so I'm just going to cut these out. What I'm going to do next is I'm using my well-used scoreboard. I'm going to be scoring, starting here, every 1/8 inch, all the way up to here. So what we're going to do now is stamp them. So I am using my IOD Merry and Bright Christmas stamp. Now in these stamps you have little inserts, and I popped these ones out. And when I did my garland, I used all of the frames. So depending on how many bulbs you're going to have, you could do one of each. You could do them all the same. I'm just going to pick 2 to do right now. All very cute. It just depends on what you want on. I'm using black ink and my brayer. And I'm going higher up, and I'm just going to stamp these down, and then I'm going to add some fun words into this. There are so many really fun words and sayings. Small Merry Christmas in here, and I'll use the deer head down here. And what's fun with all these little words is I can lay them down, see exactly how they're going to look, and the flat edge is up. So when I lay my plate on top of that, it'll grab it all exactly the way it's lined up, and I'll know it's lined up just the way I want it. And they're all right on here. There we go. Wasn't that easy? How fun. One thing with the glass plates, you're going to get consistent pressure on all your pieces when you're using a plate like this. But a lot of times I just use my thin mounts, and that works well also. And now we're going to add a little bit of Crackle and Distress. So when you're doing this, you're going to find it's going to curl a little. So you need to like bend it back, especially when you're stamping so it stays. Or you could turn it over and just iron the bottom to make sure it stays flat while you're stamping. I'm going to use a Crackle Stamp, and I'm using this gray. I don't want it super dark. I just want to give it a little bit of definition. So I'm going to use my Distress Oxide, my vintage photo, and I'm going over the edges of this. And I'm also going to rub everywhere I scored. Now see, this is how you're getting the look that it looks like it's actually 3D or embossed. And you can still see the black lines, but I think that looks really interesting. Now I'm going to add just a little water because this is water activated, and it's just going to blend it in. Okay, so now I am going to seal this. I'm going to use my liquid patina. It's a flat matte finish. I'm going to put that over the top, and that is going to really bring out the color of the paint. Then I'm going to do a quick spray of gloss and add my mica glitter. And you can decide what type of finish you really want to use on this. There really is no right or wrong. It just depends on your preference. So I'm going to let this dry real quick, and then I'm going to put a quick spritz of gloss and add my mica. Depending on how you're going to hang this. If you're going to do a garland, I put 2 holes in here. And so you just want to use a hole punch, and I'll show you where I'm putting them. And you could do this now, or you could do this after you've completely finished it. If you're not sure if you're going to use them as ornaments, or you're going to use them as tags or as a banner. I'm going to do a little spray of a gloss because I wanted these shiny. And then I'm just going to add some of my mica glitter. So we are just going to let this dry and then put our hanger on. So for the hanger, you could use jute, you could use a real thin ribbon, you could use whatever you would like. I'm going to show you what I used. I wanted to use sari silk, but I wanted it to be able to move and bend and stay very, very stable. So I'm going to use my paper wire in the center of my sari silk. And you will just use your favorite glue of choice. You need to probably measure how much you think you're going to need. And this is paper wire, and I'm just going to fold it over and squish it down. And when you're putting it through, you're going to really have to squish it to get it through. But there are so many options to hang it. Actually, you could probably use just the paper wire. So just continue doing this till you get to whatever length that you're using. And then just set this aside and make sure the glue is dry. So when these are dry, we're going to attach our ribbon. I wanted my ribbon a little more antiqued. If you don't, you can skip this step. I am using my Distress Oxide again, and I'm just going to kind of lightly go over this. This is the part you need to use a little bit of patience with, because it does take a bit, and you don't want to rip your light bulb after all that work. Take one of your ends, put it in here. Take my other end, carefully put it in through the top. And you get that fun look. So for my next one, I am going to go back behind and give myself a little space in between. And I'm doing more of a push than a pull, only because I do not want this to rip after all that work. And if you were really concerned, you could always put a piece of packing tape before you even cut your hole so it's a little more reinforced. I just took my time and I didn't break one of them. And then you would do the same with all the rest. Okay guys, wasn't this fast, easy, And now you can see it really is inexpensive, some cardstock. So we also did some up as cute little ornaments, or you could do the bunting. I hope you guys try this out. I'd love to see what you do. But whatever you do, have fun.